Shea, dude, we were just talking like right before I hit record. We were talking that last time we saw each other in the real world was in Denver. What was that? 2017,
I'm pretty
18?
sure. I'm pretty sure it was September 2017.
Okay, September 2017. Yeah,
Yeah.
see, I'm too old. I literally cannot remember that far back. So back then, that was I was talking at my good friend his event. John Logar is talking at his event for consultants and teaching my style of consulting, especially marketing for consultants. So you came and it seemed like you were headed down that consultant path. Did you go down that consultant path?
So yes and no. Like at the time I was there, I had just jumped to my own market research business. I had been
Okay.
working in the industry for a while and I was working for these attorneys who had like the worst business model and the worst business sense in the world. Like the absolute pinnacle example of like you could be a best writing author, but you're not necessarily a best selling author, right? Like
Right.
that's what those guys.
Right.
And so I had tried to get them to like, let's change the business model. They just couldn't get away from the vanity of like a brick and mortar thing, attorneys and vanity.
Right.
That's not a surprise to
Uh-huh.
anybody. And so I was there trying to learn how to sell because I'm a marketer. I'm not a salesman. I never have been. I hate it. I'm an introvert. It's like my social batteries charge down so fast for like my best friend in the world, even let alone if I'm in any kind of like adversarial or like I need to persuade you thing. And so I went to John's event to just try and learn how to sell. And I ended up buying into John's thing, and it was so useful. It ended up saving me from like the poorhouse because I had this massive contract that just like fell through because I couldn't
Oh man.
deliver. It was like completely my fault. And so a couple of months go by after that, and my life at this point is I'm cold calling attorneys like 8 hours a day. Like I hate my life. I hate my life. And I had this Twitter account set up that I was just kind of dinking around on for fun. And I stopped paying attention to it after a couple weeks. And then like 3 months later, I log in and I've picked up 5,500 followers because somebody had retweeted something I had done or something. And
Nice.
so you kind of knew me during my clueless phase when I was first building my skills, but I had no actual skills. And I was also just terrified of putting myself out there because I knew I didn't have skills, right? And so I kind of like Mr. Magoo accidentally stumbled my way into some kind of success. And I started to realize that like maybe with social media, there's actually something for me here. I'm kind of a good like left brain, right brain thinker. And so I ended up spinning that into a consultancy working with creators. And I did that full time for, let's see, years, math, like 7 years. And I spent the last 2.5 years really trying to think of like, I want to go to something else. I want to do something else that actually engages my passion because consulting doesn't do that. Like it just doesn't. So I was really in kind of like a dark place, like in terms of like my self-perception, right? Like I didn't have a direction that I was excited about. I didn't have a business I was excited about. I had a lot of freedom, and I like legitimately achieved like the Tim Ferriss 4-hour work week. Like I did it. Anybody who says that that can't be done, they're liars. Send them my way and I'll tell them it can be done.
Right.
But every day, those hours that I had to spend were horrible. And just like, so I finally this year I lost like a big client, and it forced me to be like, okay, like screw this. I've been trying to find purpose for a while. I'm gonna cut my cost of living to the bone, and I'm gonna move out of the US and go to Mexico and just try and figure it out. Figure out
Okay.
something that lights me up because I had done the practical thing, and I'm like a creator by nature. And I had just spent so many years saying like, I'll build the practical thing and then do the creative thing on the back end, right? That
Right.
was that was the goal
Right.
for so long.
So I want to jump in
Yeah.
because like I feel you heading into like good times, and I want to keep us back in the bad times.
Okay, sounds good.
Just a little bit longer, just a little bit longer. Because I've been there. Like I've built multiple successes that I ended up hating. Like I did not like being there. And yeah, the first time was all around, let me do money. Let me go after the money. And so I built a couple of companies and did well there and made money, but I was completely unhappy. And I had been dinking around with this idea back in 2005 on how to run my companies anywhere in the world. Because I had the year before in 2004, I'd broken free of doing in-person meetings with my clients. I moved away from the Pacific Northwest, went down to Arizona, and I
Wait,
told
I'm sorry to
everybody,
interrupt, but I didn't know you were from the Pacific Northwest. I'm from Seattle area, so that's
I lived in Portland.
okay. Yeah, I
So
lived there a while too.
yeah, yeah. So I lived up there and built my first successes there. I I was like, I'm done. Like I do not want to put on a suit. I do not want to go into a boardroom, try to convince people that they need to run our ad campaign. Like this isn't the way I want to live. I
Mm.
moved away, told all my clients, never again will I show up in your office. We're going to use WebEx, and that's the only way you're going to be able to contact me. And they were like, "Oh no, I just don't know how this is going to work." And it worked that way for several more years
Mhm.
before I finally said, "Okay, I'm not working with you guys ever again." Because I started building this idea of freedom, got to that whole Tim Ferriss thing where it's like, well, I can live anywhere. I can travel when I want. I've got plenty of cash. Uh, no one can tell me what to do. But it gets kind of boring, right? It gets a little boring. So
Yes.
so that's where I got like so you it seems like you got to a point where you got the freedom that you were seeking, which is why the Monetize even exists. Is like the show is about, getting to that freedom that you're after, but then found that the freedom that you built was not the freedom that you wanted. That sound right?
I sort of. I think the for a lot of my time that I was spending doing my thing, it was the freedom that I wanted, and it was we're making a comfortable middle class living. I'm living in an awesome house in like a really cool part of Portland. I spent all day painting Warhammer 40K minis. Like
Nice.
it was fine. But it just, I think that the fact that I didn't have my passion locked into it just made it unsustainable, right? Like I think maybe like a lot of people can understand it if you put it like this. Like maybe your idea of the perfect day is going and sitting on the beach, right? And like feeling that breeze, getting the sun. But like if you do that every day for 3 years, it might not have like the same luster for you that it
Right.
had on day
Right.
one. And that was kind of where it was. And I like I went into the kind of depression where you gain weight and like there was some kind of core purpose in me that was not being exercised, and I was just going through the motions, and every day of like going through the motions just kind of it's like a pebble in your shoe, and like every day it's there, it just kind of like aggravates you worse, and that's kind of where I've been at. But I also was dealing with like, because like I'm good at a lot of things in marketing and business world. But one of those things is not like I see a need in the market that has like actual marketable potential. Like I churned through so many crappy ideas over the years, and so being in a place where like I know I'm unhappy, but I also don't know what to do or where to go to get out of it. That
Yeah.
that being in that kind of limbo state, that alone was like a drag on my, day-to-day life satisfaction.
So having coached businesses now for like 17 years now, I've seen this a lot with a lot of business owners where they've done something for a while and it's the luster, as you said, wears off because first it's like you're creating, you're building, and you're making things, and money is showing up in your bank account, and you're like, oh wow, that's actually pretty cool,
Mhm.
right? And now I'm able to afford doing some of the things that I like doing when I'm not working. But then some of the downsides of business start to flare up.
Mhm.
The things that you were easily able to overlook when you were getting started,
Yes.
right? You're easily able to overlook it. It was there, the pain was there, but you
Mhm.
just like, I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
Is that you get to a point where you have to change as a person.
Mhm.
And a lot of entrepreneurs decide, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to change as a person. I'm just going to change my location. I'm just going to change my business. I'm going to change other things except the part of this pain issue,
Mhm.
right?
The thing
I'm going to
actually
change.
causing you the pain.
Yes, yes. I'm going to do everything other than that, right? So because I'm not going to try to convince you to go back into consulting.
Right.
But this is more for the audience. Is what specifically was it? Because you kept saying like passion and passion. It's like, well, nobody has a passion for any real business. You know, maybe Elon, like rare people that are that can do that. But for the most part, every entrepreneur I've ever met, they find something passionate, something they can be passionate about inside a business they're not passionate about.
Mm.
So what was it that was actually causing problems in your life that made you depressed? Like, this sucks.
I think it was the sense, because what you just said a minute ago was really spot on. For me personally, at least, not maybe not everybody's wired like this, but I need to be building something. And so in the early days when I was building something, that was exciting to me, and getting in under the hood and just setting up building the funnels and connecting all the apps and stuff like that. That was like fun to me. But
Yeah.
when I hit a point of like, what I'm doing is not really building anything, but it's kind of just keeping the plate spinning. That then turns to like a monotony for me. Like again, maybe this is just the way I'm wired, but I'm sure you've worked with people that are like this, that like,
Yes.
I need something that like keeps my days interesting. And if I'm waking
Right.
up and I'm doing the like, Fight Club thing where you wake up and every day is the same, like that starts to have a big drag on me, and it makes me start doing things like procrastinate the core functions, and
Right.
screw off for this week and not do anything, and then because you're not engaged, then like maybe you could be doing something that would kind of like move the needle instead of just keeping the plate spinning. But because I wasn't like fully engaged in it, like I never did that. And so it was all maintenance, and it was never like, let's build to something else.
Right. I call this the arsonist and the firefighter. Uh, Creative entrepreneurs, there's other types of entrepreneurs, but creative entrepreneurs are prone to setting their business on fire just to have the ability to put it out.
Oh man, I feel so seen right now.
I I wrote this probably 2013 or something. I wrote an article about this personality trait that I kept seeing over and over again, because a lot of entrepreneurs get to that stage of, wow, uh, the normal stuff is it's monotony to me now. I don't like to maintain. I want to create. And what they failed to do and failed to realize in that moment is that I need to create a new thing, which is the system that keeps the old thing alive, right?
Yes.
So it's the thing, it's literally the next step. So Silicon Valley, this is something that's amazing about Silicon Valley is you come out there, 19-year-old kid, you're super smart, got an idea, and they surround you with people who have already been where you need to go. So that when you, this creative genius, get to the point where you are incapable of doing the business side of things. They come in and they make your life in such a way that you're able to continue to grow as a leader and keep being creative and so that you can create the $1 billion company
Mhm.
instead of the $100,000 company.
Right.
Because if they didn't surround you with all these other people, you would get to that stage and be like, oh, this is boring now. Like, this is the boring part. But they fill in all those gaps. So you take somebody who's like Mark Zuckerberg, who has grown into a world-class business leader. He started out as a college student who wanted to meet girls, right? That was why he built the Facebook,
Right.
was so because he was a nerd sitting in his office coding, sitting in his dorm room coding and not meeting girls. And yet he got surrounded by the right people that turned him into a guy who could grow past every one of the pain points that would kill his passion for creating.
I absolutely get where you're coming from on that, but another lesson that I think for me that tied into that was I had, and I think it was just ego driven more than anything. I had a need and a desire to control everything, to own everything, to be 100% of the profits, to make 100% of the decisions.
Yeah.
And with this thing I'm building now, we can talk about that a little later, but like at some point, this will be a large company with a CEO. It will not be me. I have no desire to do that. Could I be the person like Mark Zuckerberg who surrounds himself by people that are more experienced or smarter or whatever in different ways and like become that person? Yeah, absolutely. Like I could. But for me, so much of if I look back at like my arc as an entrepreneur, so much of this was learning to say no and learning not just to like, a lot of people will talk about that in a business sense of like, say no to the wrong deal or whatever. But for me, it's like a really intentional act of triage in my life. Like this has never been about work for the sake of work for me. Believe it or not, like I was not completely lit up by the idea of like helping fitness coaches build social media brands, right? Like
Right.
that didn't light me up on the inside. And so being willing to like do the work necessary to build the thing so that essentially I can have the dream role for myself inside of this large company that will be influential and will give me access to like a high earning potential. Like to me, that is something that gets me out of bed. Whereas I was the guy who, when I was doing sales and I was cold calling attorneys and I would get that interested attorney, it was almost like I would dread it. I would regret that this guy is interested because now I got to do all the other things that I don't like to do.
Right.
Right.
Yes. Yep.
And so for me right now, I'm doing things that I don't necessarily want to be doing for the entire duration of this company, but I have an exit strategy, right? Like I know how I'm going to get out of that. Whereas when I was doing the cold calls, like there's no end in sight. It's just darkness everywhere I
Right.
could see around me. And so for me, being able to like say no or to like relinquish control or plan to relinquish control so that if I brought on a sales partner, that I didn't do this, but if I brought on a sales partner and I told her, you get 50% of everything you close, okay? Like my 50% is going to be worth so much more money to me than 100% of whatever I am responsible of bringing in. And it took me, I probably product of like lower middle class upbringing. It took me a long time to be willing to say yes to that kind of logic, because having the control, making sure all the profits are mine, was something that was really important to me in the beginning. And I really got to my like getting some gray in my beard point before I realized that like I can make my life so much better, make my business better, and ultimately make more money if I'm willing to like let myself get out of the way of other people doing the things that they are great at, uh, and just like I'll focus on the things that I actually want to do.
Right. Can I be a executive coach here for a second?
Always,
All right.
always.
All right. Um, not saying you're actually doing this, but you're starting to sound like the entrepreneurs I've worked with who were abdicating versus delegating.
Mm.
So it's like I would give them this. Like I would not do this. Like I would be away from it. So what I started doing was like taking, before everybody started hating Donald Trump, was the whole you're fired, right? Was to start teaching entrepreneurs to fire themselves because you're like, okay, I don't belong in this job that I'm doing right now. So
Mm.
that could be sales. It's like I don't belong here because I wake up hating this. So what I need to do is find somebody who I can delegate to who wakes up and goes, "Yeah, I can't wait to just close an attorney." Because like to that person, which I've met these people, like the challenge of like, overcoming an attorney's objection, somebody
Mhm.
who's trained to like always pick up objections and have them, right? Uh, to be able to go, yeah, I close that guy. Like you got to find that guy to be in this role. So an abdicator goes, "Hey guy, you're a shark. You go and you eat those attorneys alive." And then eventually the shark eats you alive because you go, "Man, he's not doing this. He's not doing this other thing. He's focused on these other things. He's making promises that our company just does not fulfill. And it's causing all kinds of other problems in the business." But if you delegated, and it's not just nuance. If you delegate and you say, "Hey, here's your responsibility. Here are your roles and responsibilities in this thing. And you're going to report to me and you're going to hit these metrics. And if we find anything that you're like, hey, this is a cool new idea. Our market is asking for it. Can we build it?" And so they don't just promise it. And they come and they tell you before they just make a promise to their prospect. That's delegation. Most people abdicate. So this idea that I'm going to not be the CEO of my company and I'm going to have someone else do it is abdication, because you're going to be the CEO of this company before you can find somebody to be the CEO of this company. Like it's a path. You will have to be there unless you raise a bunch of money and can afford to hire a CEO to step in while you have something that the CEO cannot do. Otherwise, like it's his company, right? It just becomes his. There's no need for you. So there's a path to this future role as an owner. So there's certain roles in a company. You got technician, manager, executive, and owner, right? You go if you're bootstrapping, you go through all four,
Mm.
and sometimes you're all four at the exact same time,
You're right.
right? And it causes a lot of confusion. This is something that in the and I'm a big believer on language. So even if none of this resonates with you, the language that you're using is setting up the future to meet abdication versus delegation.
I totally get what you're saying. I think that you're right to pick on the words. I think that my vision for my future role is closer to a delegation thing. Like I want to be focused on, because we haven't really talked about it yet, but what I'm building is going to be a large multi-creator travel brand. That is where this is going. And so what I want to do, I've got kind of three phases planned for this company. And phase two is when I start bringing on other creators. And this is when I want to get out of the day-to-day operation of the business. I don't want to be spending
Okay.
my time making sure the trains are running on time. I want to find like a systems operator that can handle that. I want to find somebody who has experience doing hiring, building teams, things like that. Things I've never
Okay.
done because I've always either been the entrepreneur building from scratch or I was the first hire in. So building from nothing is like my strength, right? And so what I want to do in from phase 2 on is I want to be the visionary. I want to be not steering the ship, maybe telling the navigator where the ship is going
Okay.
and then developing the talent because working with creators is what I've been doing. And so
Okay.
developing the talent, green lighting creative projects, like that's the thing that I will have that anybody I stick into the CEO role is not going to have. And it's also going to be, to my mind, the kind of the secret sauce of the company, right? Like it's going to be
Okay.
what separates us from competitors in the space. So
Okay.
I just don't want it to sound like I'm trying to go to sleep at the wheel. It's just I don't want to be I don't want to be having meetings with accounting about what payroll is going to be on Friday. I don't want to be dealing with the HR onboarding, like a low level like marketing. I don't want to do that. I want to be I want to make shrewd strategic decisions so that I can be in a position where I can focus on the creative stuff that nobody else that I can't delegate to anybody else.
Uh-huh. Yeah, the funny thing is those shrewd decisions come out of all those other things that you say you don't wanna do.
Is this arsonist behavior? Is this
Yes, it
pre
100%.
arson?
Because so I got a client right now, and I sent him a book. It's called Simple Numbers, Big Profits or something like that from this guy Crabtree. And it's a really short book on accounting for entrepreneurs. And it's an easy read. You can read it, the whole thing, in like a couple of hours. But it gives you this basic idea of what you should know about your numbers that will help you make better decisions about your business. And he does not want to talk numbers. So we get into a coaching call. The first thing I do is fire up the spreadsheet. And here's the thing is I'm a creative guy. I hate firing up spreadsheets. I despise the act of doing it. But I learned over the years that the only way to make proper decisions about the growth of a company is to deeply understand the numbers that your accountant dumped into that spreadsheet. Without doing that, you cannot make a big business. It is impossible to do. You can get to, $1 million, $2 million, maybe even three. Like my client is at $3 million a year revenue right now and doesn't understand the economics of his business. And he doesn't want to. And
Mhm.
so we're kind of always battling in our coaching calls because he's like, yeah, I know, but I don't like any of this part. So what we're doing is we're building other executives around them. We're on a search for a CFO because I'm not a CFO. I'm not an accountant. I'm not a numbers guy. So we have to get into this company somebody who wakes up in the morning and the first thing they want to do is grab a cup of coffee and open up spreadsheets. Like we need that kind of guy because my client is not going to be that guy. But he still needs to be able to understand it because when his CFO comes and says, "Well, here's what the numbers mean, and I think we should go this direction with the company," but it's like, dude, you're in charge of the company. If you don't understand those numbers, he can tell you a thing that could completely derail the direction of this company because you don't understand the numbers, and you will be intuitively right. But you won't be able to defend yourself, and you'll get convinced by people who can defend it by looking at spreadsheets.
Mhm.
That's where companies falter, is when the guy in charge who knows where this thing needs to go gets convinced by people who are not looking at the future. They're just looking at today, and they make recommendations that are safe, but doesn't get the ship out of the harbor, right?
Mhm. So what
So, oh, go
I'm sorry.
ahead.
Well, what I was going to say is because at this point, I mean, my life has been sacrificed on the altar of lifestyle design. Like I am here, like I am here to because this has kind of defined my whole life anyway. I'm here to want ambitious things and and to find ways to have them, right? And to do things on my
Okay.
terms. So, what would you say if I know that like big picture, I want to be in the creative, and that's like how I want to apply my time and my energies. Is it just like an 80-20 approach to the core stuff of the business of like meeting with the accountant, things like that? Like how do you build the role you want in the company without being asleep at the wheel?
Learning to understand the necessity of the thing that you're doing. So when you get up in the morning, do you have breakfast?
Do I? No, but
Uh-huh.
I'm not.
Okay. Well, do you eat? Okay. Do
I
you eat in the day?
in the day, yes, I eat in the day,
Okay. Why?
because it's required, because you need to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's just certain things about business that it's just a requirement.
Mhm.
And if you detach the emotional response to that thing, like you have to figure out, well, why am I getting emotional over spreadsheets?
Mhm.
Why not like, yeah, it's taxing, it's work I don't like to do, but I don't get emotional about it anymore. I used to. I used to throw a fit like a little child. I'm not gonna do this, right? That this literally was how I behaved. It was an immature path. Most people do this. They find things they don't like, they emotionalize it, which then like amps it up, right? It's literally a 3, but because you got emotional, it's now a 7. And and then over time that 7 creeps up to an 11, and where you just want to destroy things. All because you've ruminated on the emotion of this thing. Because business, most of business, 80% of business is boring. It's mathematical. It is do step A and then do step B and then do step C, and you collect a lot of money. It's just that. Entrepreneurs like to come in and go, it's not that. It's A divided by 7 times this and all this other calculus, and then they go, it's so complex and I hate these other parts. It's like, well, don't have those other parts. Don't emotionalize those other parts, because you're going to have to deal with them no
Mm.
matter what happens. Until the day you can fire yourself from 100% of the jobs in your business, you're going to have boring shit you're going to have to do. Just comes with the territory. So the best thing to do is figure out, why do I get emotional over this thing? Do I get angry? Do I get sad? Like procrastination's like a number one thing. Procrastination a lot of times does not feel emotional,
Mhm.
but there's an emotion that's causing the procrastination.
Mhm.
So it's like, well, what is that? I used to procrastinate my taxes. Like I did not pay my taxes until October 14th every year for my businesses. Like, yeah, filed extension. Like January 1st, I was filing an extension before I even sat down to look at the accounting. Okay? Because I was like, I am procrastinating this. Like I put it into my schedule to procrastinate. And then I finally sat down. It's like, well, what's the emotion here? Why do I do this? Well, I'm afraid I've made some stupid mistake along the way. My accountant didn't catch it, because there's been lots of times my accountants didn't catch something and I didn't catch it because I am a petulant child and refuse to look at the numbers during the year, right? And then I get to the stage and it's like, oh, this is going to suck. Like I've got to sit down and read all the expenses, make sure they're properly categorized and all this stuff. And maybe if I make a mistake, then they'll throw me in jail, right? Like I had this amped all the way up, right?
Mhm.
Because I've got to sign that document before it gets sent off to the IRS. And I had all this electrified emotion around a thing that is just a process. It is literally a simple process. You have to do it every single year. So why not build a system that just gets it done, right? And now it's not emotional. Every January, all of our taxes are done because comes December 31st, all bank is settled. January 1st, from that point on, it's just there's no reason to not get them done.
Mhm. Got it. So just suck it up. Sounds like.
Well, no, because sucking it up means you take that emotion and you put it in a box,
Mhm.
and then you crush the box and you compact it, and then you tuck it away deep down inside, and then it eats at you constantly. And then every year when that thing comes up, it comes up out of its box, bursts out of your chest, right? That's what it does.
Uh-huh.
So you cannot suck it up. You actually have to identify, why does it bother me?
Mhm.
Why does this thing actually bother me? Because it doesn't mean you're going to get rid of why it bothers you. It means that now I know what triggers me to get upset and get all emotional, and then I screw up everything. And instead I go, oh, I'm going to behave like this
Mhm.
because I've got some, trauma from childhood. I got hit in the head with a baseball bat or something. And like that thing is always going to make me act this way when this situation arises.
Mhm.
So why not eliminate the situation? Let's find a way to not do this thing. So that means, oh, I still have to look at the numbers and I need to not be emotional about it. But maybe if I had a guide through my financials, now it's not emotional because I got a guide. I don't have to go in there knowing things that I clearly don't know, right? So I can have a guide. So for my client, we're going to have a CFO. He's going to be the guide. Right now, I'm that guide. But at some point, he's going to need a CFO in the company to guide him. And then he doesn't have to worry so much because his guide is going to say, here's what these numbers look like. Here's what they mean. And then if they work together well as a team, he'll go, okay, I know what you said about the numbers, but here's what I think we're able to accomplish. You figure it out, right? You figure it out in the numbers because this is where we're going. And you'll get and this is where we get a little woo-woo. You will get a feel for things that you're not competent in.
Mhm.
I'm not competent in numbers, but I have like intuition out the wazoo when I sit down and look at a client's balance sheets and their profit and loss statement. Like I can just scroll it and go, boom, that's a problem,
Mhm.
right? Because I've been doing it for 17 years.
So I want to know if I'm kind of grokking what you're saying here. Is it's less of like, don't be the CEO, and it's more like, be the CEO and just offload either the things you're not competent to do or the things that you like that are just not in your wheelhouse, I guess. Offload those to people that you delegate it to rather than like let that person take care of it. Is that kind of the distinction that you're drawing between delegation and abdication? Abdication?
Yes, that's piece of it, but it's more than just offload it to another human being. It's offload the emotion.
Mm.
Because if you can systemize most things in your life, if you systemize it, it's like, okay, I just get up and I do this thing. I get up and I eat. Like for me, the very first thing I do is go handcraft a cup of coffee. Why do I do that when I could use a machine that just goes
Mm.
and I can just drink it? Well, because it's a process that moves me into my day. I grind the beans, I do this other, I've got all these steps that I do for my cup of coffee that I will drink in like 3 seconds, right? It takes me far longer to make a cup of coffee than it does for me to drink it. But the point of it is I've made a system around something that is enjoyable.
Mm.
So it's not just systems of things like I need to offload this. I just need systems in my life that make my life better. So there's a lot of stuff. Most things just make your life worse, and you're better off if you make a system that system takes the emotion out of it.
Mm.
And
That makes
sometimes
sense.
that means I need a human being because I'm wired where I cannot overcome my immaturity to handle this like an adult.
Mm.
I've got loads of those in my life. So it's better for me to just make systems to compensate for my weaknesses.
Got it. So if we're talking about the offloading of the emotions with your tax example, the offloading of the emotions is you having an expert in the room that is going to like make sure you don't make that mistake on your filing that's going to end up with you in prison or something. And so you by retaining that person, you take the fear away. And now the involvement you do have to have with your taxes is just a routine and like a system that you engage in. And without the emotion, it's just more palatable for you, it less of a negative drain on your quality of life. Is that
Right,
about right?
right.
Mm.
Yeah, and so I want to highlight having that person in the room, which could be, virtual, could be
Proverbially,
remote.
yeah.
But what I did at first was I abdicated. I was like, accountant, do.
Uh,
And I signed. Didn't read, just signed. Didn't take more than a couple of times to getting bit in the ass for doing that I went, oh, I'm even more emotional now. I'm less
mm,
trusting now. I'm more likely to set my life on fire now because I abdicated the responsibility to somebody who I'm just like one of 1,000 clients, right? My small company, just one of their clients. They don't give a shit,
uh,
and they miss a detail, and it's like, and if I sue them, no big deal. They've got insurance that'll cover it, and whatever, right? I'm not a big priority to them, but for me, it's a very big priority because this is an emotional issue for me. And so after that, I was like, oh, I am abdicating instead of delegating because I am still going. I need to know enough to be able to sit down and have a conversation with that accountant and understand the numbers that I'm looking at enough to go, hey, is that right? Right? Because it looks like you put a 1 here and it should be a 7,
uh,
right? Oh, okay. Yeah, we made a mistake there. Yeah, I should not be catching your mistakes, but it happens. And I got to where I became competent enough over the years. After I removed most of the emotion from it, my competency arose and less emotion got involved. Like, because the more competent you are at something, the less emotional you are around it.
uh,
Because it's just like second nature. I can just do that thing.
Do you, if I recall correctly, you said that this whole like delegation versus abdication thing is not uncommon for the entrepreneurs you work with.
Mm.
And I'm kind of curious because if I think about like the days when I was like consuming a lot of like bloggers who blog about blogging, content. So a lot of that was aimed at, people who are starting off. And I just feel like I remember that a lot of people would talk about kind of the opposite problem of like the CEO is the bottleneck and he's taking too much into his plate. And so I'm curious, like, do you find that those two things coincide often, or is one thing more common than the other in the people that you work with?
And a lot of times it's the exact same person.
Yeah, that's kind of what I suspected.
Micromanaging a dozen things and abdicating 100 things.
Mhm.
And it's always around whatever the thing they're most insecure about. So you abdicate because you're insecure about it. You uh, micromanage or hoard things and try to hold on to everything because you're insecure about something.
Mhm.
Because I don't know what I'm doing, I'm gonna hold on to it.
Mhm.
Which that's a terrible
Wild.
idea, right?
Wild.
Yeah, but but that's the thing is we're emotional beings.
Mm.
And so we say and do the craziest stuff. And you'll see it in businesses all the time where someone will micromanage an area and you're like, well, why? Well, I'm the best at this. No, no, you're not. Like you are clearly not the best at this. Like, I bet we could go out and find 1,000 different people better at this thing than you right
Mm.
now and be able to hire them with the amount of money you have available. So why are you clinging to it? Because there's some insecurity that by holding this thing, that it prevents them from feeling a certain way.
Mhm.
Granted,
I'd be willing to bet too that it becomes a mechanism for procrastination to distract them from the things that they're emotional about that they don't want to do too. Like,
correct.
I'll spend my time working on this unimportant thing so that I don't have to deal with this important thing that I don't want to deal with.
Correct. And the reason I've been hammering on this and it's like you wanted to talk about this other thing and I was like, "No, we're going to talk about this." Is that a friend and mentor of mine, his story when he got started was Joe Polish, he was a carpet cleaner and he sucked. Like he wasn't making any money. And a friend of his was like, "Hey, we're going out to go jet skiing on the lake. Do you want to come?" And he's like, "Nah, man, I got to try to work and I got to try to get some more carpet cleaning jobs, or I'm not going to be able to pay my rent." And he's like, "Oh, there's going to be this millionaire guy who's there. Maybe you can talk to them and he can give you advice on how to be better at your job." And he's like, "Okay, that sounds great." He goes and he asks the guy, like, "What business should I get into?" And the guy says, "Joe, are there any people in your industry that you consider are making really good money doing what you're doing?" It's like, "Yeah, yeah, there's like several that, that are like, they make over 1 million a year. Like those guys are rich." He's like, "Well, then it's not the business. It's not the industry that's the problem. The problem is you, Joe. And you could go and start another business, but you will be in that new business." And when he told me that, when he told me that story, and I was like, "Oh shit, like that's me. Like I've done that like 12 different times, and that's just this week, right?" and so like learning this where your emotional immaturities are lets you know, like, okay, so maybe I do need to just break ties from this thing and go do something else. But what can I do to prevent me setting the new thing on fire? Like that's the number one thing. Because I sold my swimming pool company. I hated that thing for 4 years. I hated it. Like I did it as an investment and then essentially took over my life because I had never run a local business before. All I ever did was like advertising and copywriting and dealing with asshole executives to fund my cool ass marketing campaigns.
Mhm.
Right? That's all I had done before. So I figured, oh, how hard could it be to run a local swimming pool company? You know, it's like I'm great at marketing, and then I had to deal with everything that I hated, right? But you know, I learned to systemize a lot of that stuff, and I grew up on a lot of it. But eventually, it got to the point where it's like I just don't want to wake up and think about this thing ever again. And when I sold it, the final last piece of selling it, and I was like, I don't have to think about it. And I woke up like the next day, and I was like, I did not think about the business. And I was like, that's so amazing. Like that weight was gone. So sometimes even when you systemize, even when you do all these things, you've accumulated so much baggage that maybe a change is good for you. I probably should have just taken a massive dose of psilocybin and gone through some therapy, and then I probably would have been able to run that business because I would have just cleared out all that head trash, right? Like
I
that
can vouch for
probably,
psilocybin and therapy, the power of psilocybin and therapy. So
yeah. This is like had I done that, maybe I would have become the swimming pool king of the Southwest or something,
Mhm.
because I would have gotten rid of head trash that had accumulated over 4 years that I just could not release, even after I systemized everything.
Yeah. What So going back to the and by the way, I always love a good Joe Polish story, and I'm keeping his I keep I tell stories about Joe Polish to my clients too, so I'm keeping the dream alive. You said like the millionaire said to Joe, you know, you'll still be in the business. So when
Yes.
you went from the pool company to whatever, I can't remember what you did next. Did you carry that baggage with you, and like how did you kind of like break out of that rut of you holding yourself back with your own shit?
Well, I quit.
Mm.
I quit everything. I was like, I'm retired. I'm done. You know, I'm 38 years old. I've got enough money. I'm done. I quit. And maybe I'll get back to doing something in the future.
Mhm.
But then within 6 months, I said yes to a client who wanted me to help them with their marketing, but I told them I would just teach them. It's like I'm not doing this thing. I'm never going back to it. But I'll teach your team how I create campaigns. Not even create the campaign for them. Just I'm going to teach you how I come up with them.
Right.
And I'll do it over a couple of days, 10 grand. That was like, and I thought it was a stupid number, right? And it wasn't. I should have said like 50,000 or something. Like I wanted them to say no. The first, you know, it popped in my head and I just said that. And I think it was like the second one or something. I did like 15,000, like, well, I'll bump it up, you know, by a third. And they still said yes. And then the fourth one, I was like, okay, it's $25,000 for me to talk to you for 2 days. And, and that was like, oh, people really like this. They like having this guide come in because they already have competent people in the business. But those people have never learned how to do this thing that they always outsourced to agencies like mine. You know, they always went to an ad agency. So they're like, well, we liked the campaigns you created, so create our ad campaigns. And when I showed them how to do it, well, then their team, who are really smart people, just started coming up with ad campaigns. And so that's incredibly valuable, far worth more than $25,000. I figured out.
Mhm.
So by accident, by saying I didn't want to do a thing ever again, I put rules in place that set up me eventually becoming a business coach. That like I wasn't intending to do this thing. I was just setting up, here's the rules in which I will accept money from you. If you wish to give me money and I like money, but we need to set up rules as to what I will do for that money. And then I just started setting high standards, right? I was like like each one who came to me, I just like raised the money. I raised the standard of what I would do, and I would cut the level of work out. Like it just started reducing amounts of labor on my part, the amount of thinking I needed to do, and I increased the price until I was happy with what was occurring. And that's how I became a coach. I just started setting up rules for my life and for my business, how I would do business. Is when I had my ad agency previously, the only rule that I truly instituted in 2004 was we're remote only now. But I still would get clients calling me at, after like 8 p.m. at night. I'm like,
Mhm.
dude, I'm with my family. Like, I don't give a shit about your marketing enough to give up family time for you.
Right.
Right. So it was still stressful because I hadn't set up all the rules. I hadn't set up every single rule necessary in my business for me to love the business.
Do you think that you have to kind of inherently learn the rules that you need to set through by doing deals and things, projects that you
By
don't want to
suffering?
do? Yeah. Or because I can sit back because I'm thinking about this now a lot. Your first episode, I told you it was so timely. The notion because I brought on a commission only salesperson who's like an absolute killer. And I want her going to brands to work out brand deals. But I'm not like I started publishing in June. My largest platform is 4,100 followers right now. So
Okay.
I'm not looking to try to make the kind of peanuts that I would get as like a micro influencer. Right.
Right.
And so what she's going to be doing is going to be to these companies and saying, Shea will make content for you to publish on your own channels, your paid channels, your organic channels. And when I was listening to the first episode of your podcast, it was like such a big light bulb for me going off that like, oh, another way that I can get like aggressive monetization going early is to work out deals exactly what you described. Like I'm going to coach your in-house marketing team on making content, on distributing it on social. And a thing that I have been thinking about as I'm kind of like turning that over in my head is just I feel like it's inevitable that I'm gonna end up doing some deals that I'm gonna like regret doing because I don't know the rules to set yet, or I don't know what is too aggressive of a rule setting process. And so I can sit back and I can think about some structure. I'm a very black and white thinker. That's easy, but I just know that there's going to be gray area that I'm gonna have to navigate. There's gonna be things I didn't think about that I have to navigate. So for somebody who is like philosophically very much on board with what you're saying about make rules, how would you suggest to go about doing that when like you haven't done your first deal yet?
Okay. What don't you want? Make a I do not want list,
Yeah. So it's like
right?
life. I think it's really just comes down to like life balance. I don't want to be doing work outside of the scope that's promised. And I don't want those 8 p.m. phone calls. I mean, those to me are like the big obvious ones, right? But
Well,
I
but
think
then there's the other part is like, well, I don't want to be a whore either,
Mhm,
right? So it's like, what will I not do for money?
mhm.
Like, I don't want to do this, and write that down.
Yeah.
So like from the first business, go back and write down all the things that you disliked about doing it. And it's like, because we need to make rules about that, because anything that, especially anything that you still get emotional over,
Mhm,
like I need a rule because I'm going to behave this way. Like it's just going to happen,
mhm.
you know? So I need to set these rules so I don't do it again, because you did client work already. Well, and now you're going to do client work again. Well, let's not do the same mistakes in the first one with the new one. So, Pedro, my co-host for this show and the founder of Lumen Podcasts, who I invested in, he sent me this thing. He's like, "Oh yeah, these guys, they love what you're doing. They saw your old channel. They love the fact that you work with a lot of agencies, and they want you to do a deal with them, for their software and promote it, and you can get a commission." And I was like, "I don't want a commission. Like, I don't care about that because I get these deals offered all the time." And it's like they don't serve me. It serves them, and I don't want that money enough to do the things necessary to promote their product. Because if I put in all that effort to promote their product, what do I get? Oh, the $30 per sign up that they get or whatever. Like, I don't care about that. So I said, here's the thing. We're doing this podcast. We haven't even launched. We're still recording episodes. We're far from that yet. And I said, here's what you can tell them. Give us $12,000 and I will we'll do a 15-second spot in X number of shows, and we'll make some short form content and some other things. It's like, because we're tiny, we're whatever, we may not, the Monetize may completely fail. But if you want me to take the time to build marketing and drive people to you, you're going to take a chance on me too. So you can give me $12,000 and probably the commission too, the affiliate commission, because otherwise it's literally not worth my time to do it, because I could literally just go get one client and make $50,000. And it's like, why would I do this? Well, I'd love to build a relationship with you. I would love to see if we can promote your brand and get it going, and there be a symbiotic relationship, so that one day you're not paying $12,000, you're paying me $120,000 plus performance, right? Because we built this relationship together. Here's the minimum I'm willing to start, because I understand the fact that this show's new. So like, I just immediately, this is the rule that I set. Like, I will not do it. And then so then that's what we're going to do with any potential sponsors for the Monetize, is to just say, hey, we're new, we don't have the numbers, but here's my track record, and here's what I can do for you that will live outside of this show, right? It's going to be in my show, but it'll be so good that you'll be able to use it elsewhere. And because this asset is so new, you can get in for just $12,000 plus performance. And then eventually it'll be $24,000, and so forth as we grow. But you just got to determine, well, what would it take for me to do this thing and be happy doing it? Like that's because a lot of people never think about that part. Like, I'll do it, but I'm not going to like it. Right. It's like, no. What would it take for you to like it while you do it? And then you name, and it's like, well, these are the rules that have to be set for me to like sitting down and doing the 15-second spot for your software in our show, right? Like, it's going to take that. So if you look at what you're attempting to do, then you say, okay, what are my rules around this thing? Because I do not want to replicate the past. I do not want to cold call and be in a situation where I'm grinding my day, right? I just don't want to do that. Okay, so what do we need to set so that I don't feel that way? You may still do cold calls, but we need to find out, like, can we do it where you don't feel bad while you do it?
Yeah, because I think that this kind of ties into that conversation that, yeah, it's lower middle class upbringing. setting because what I am doing in kind of my work right now is I'm really pivoting away from done for you work to just
Uh-huh.
pure consulting, strategy only. That's what I want to do. And I just have it's a known problem that like asking for something of what it's worth is hard to me, because to me it's like, oh, that's a crazy, $10,000, that's a crazy amount of money, right? I've tried to, because what is it like, million, it's one of the millionaire next door, like secrets of the millionaire mind, and it talks about that you kind of like set your barometer for like, this is
Yeah.
what my earning level is, right? And so I've tried consciously to be able to just like do like a car dealer where you write down the number and you slide it across the table and you sit and you wait, and I just feel like I'm afraid in general of pricing something so aggressively that I then can't like deliver, right? So burning a bridge with the client, failing to ROI for them. But then I definitely don't want to be, working for minimum wage when you kind of amortize out what you're being paid versus the dollar, the hours you're working. And so, this is something I'm thinking about right now as I'm prepping my saleswoman to get out there and start shaking the tree, is like, I want to price high and justify, but I don't want to set myself up for failure. And I also don't want to leave money on the table. And
Okay.
finding that sweet spot is just like challenging. And it is definitely tied into, emotions too. Like my emotions
Yes. Yeah.
are clouding this, because I can go on to Chat GPT and I can say, this is what the deliverable, I know I have no experience selling brand deals. That's not really how I've worked, but like, these are the deliverables. What would the cost be? And ChatGPT will give me a range, this to this. And it's like, it seems insane to me to think about like, oh, I'm going to ask for like $10,000 to make, a video for you to post on your YouTube. But I really don't want to like kneecap myself just because that seems crazy to somebody who's like got a lecture when he was 13 of, if we buy you this used saxophone you can't quit band, that was
Right.
that was where I came from. So that's something I've been struggling with a lot, just getting my head right around questions like that.
Yeah. And so when you go back and rewatch this, and you did kind of catch it, like how this is an emotional thing, the words that you're using, like I'll fail my client, I want all the stuff, right? Failing your client has absolutely nothing to do with the price.
But doesn't it though? I mean, if
They're,
at the end of the day you're selling, because okay, if I'm selling like HR consulting, right? Like
yeah.
that's something that tracing an ROI is like a lot more circuitous than like, I'm your marketing guru or whatever, right? And so that's why
Okay.
I fully acknowledge that I'm maybe holding myself back mentally, but that's the thought process, right? That I'm in a
Uh-huh.
place where it's infinitely measurable, and if they don't get 10x what they pay me, then I'm not living up to what I, implicitly or explicitly promise. And so yeah, that's kind of like where my head goes.
I'll tell you a little story. It involves John Logar again. I spoke at an event for him that he did in the Gold Coast in Australia, and I sat down to have lunch, the lunch for all the attendees and everything. And instead of going and hanging out with John and all this stuff, I went and sat down with the attendees. And this lady sat there next to me, and she was describing how it was such a pain in the butt that her clients were just hounding her over metrics, over the metrics of the marketing that her agency was doing. And I said, "Okay, if you don't like this, then don't do it." She's like, "Well, but they want it. All my clients want it." Like, okay, show me what you do in your marketing. Show me your website and stuff. She pulls it up on her phone. I look at it and I go, "Oh, it says right there in the headline about metrics." Like, is it that they really care about these metrics, or is it that you tell them that they really need to care about these metrics before they even become a client? All right? And so then I told her, it's like, the funny thing is I got started in the ad agency space back when it was still just about reach. Like, did you, get your name out there? Like that was advertising. It was, brand advertising.
Mhm.
And there were no metrics. And even as I moved into, back then it was called an interactive agency instead of a digital marketing agency. As I did more online advertising, it was still not about that other than clicks. Did you get the clicks? And, like, it was dumb, but
Uh,
people started thinking like that's what I needed to care about. And I learned a lesson because all the ad agencies, they had no metrics and they got millions of dollars for an ad campaign. And it's like, because clients don't actually give a shit about metrics. They don't care about performance. They care about other things. Tiny small businesses care about performance because they have to. If they spend $1, they need $4 to come back. With a larger client, they spend $1, I don't care. Like, they could spend $1 and it costs them two more dollars and they would be happy
mhm.
because they got their name out there.
Right.
So it's like, I told this lady, there are a lot of super wealthy people in brand advertising versus your performance advertising. Performance advertising has a lot of overworked, broke people. So you can continue selling metrics to all your prospects, or you can find out what your prospects really want and deliver that instead.
Okay. That's really helpful to think about that. Yeah, because especially with me, I'll be dealing with like consumer brands and stuff, and it won't be, bootstrap solopreneurs or whatever that I'm dealing with, and so I think that I don't know, having somebody like you tell me that like they think about things like getting their name out there, that's helpful because it's almost like when you put it like that, like I'm backing myself into this corner. Like I'm feeling
Yes.
like that woman with the analytics in her headline or whatever right now.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful. Thank you. So
Yeah.
this whole time together is worth it for me just for that one thing. So I'm really excited.
It'll make you a lot of money.
I just want to say I was so excited when I saw that you were publishing again, because like for me, when I think about like my development as an entrepreneur, the two most influential people on me are the Tim Conley and Tim Ferriss, and so I'm just
Awesome.
happy that you're back on the horse, getting the word out.
Oh, thanks. And thanks for coming on and having this conversation. Before we go, there's one thing. It's been sitting here. I've been ruminating on it since you said it. And you said phase two. It comes after phase one. And every time I've ever heard this, ever, it's because people have put boundaries in place, barriers in place that prevent them from going directly to the thing they want to do.
Mm. I mean, I'm a chronic bootstrapper, right? Like it doesn't even occur to me to think about
Mhm.
go seek investment money, and so building from scratch is kind of just my mode. And when I made so fa- the way that I've thought about it, phase one, I am a guy doing a travel vlog, right?
Uh-huh.
What I am aware from my own adventures making content, from working with creators, that one of the big downsides to doing that kind of thing is getting stuck on the content treadmill where, it doesn't matter if you're sick, doesn't matter if you're feeling uninspired, if you don't film, if you don't edit, if you don't
Right.
publish, then you're not growing one way or another.
Right.
And so I'm looking to build a business that's going to be large and influential. And in the early days, the bottleneck to growth is going to be my output for content, both quality and quantity output. And so
Because you've set that as a requirement.
Yes, but also it's what I want to do. I
Well, then
don't,
do that.
well,
Don't
that,
do phase two,
no,
right?
but the thing is, in phase two, I'm doing what I want to do all along. Fa-
Okay.
phase one is I am building the initial platform so that I have value to offer. Because when I work with creators, I'm acting like a talent scout. I'm going to people
Hmm.
who are small, they don't have a big following yet, they don't have a big business attached yet, and I am taking equity in exchange for advising them, right? And so
Okay.
what I want to be able to do is go to other creators that I see talent in, and I want to be able to offer them as part of my value proposition. Hey, you'll instantly be able to go from publishing to 500 people to publishing for 500,000 people, right? And so in phase one is really about me building the asset that will let me then go to phase two and start striking deals with people that I want to bring in house, work with for the long term, and I want them to unbottle me from that bottleneck. And so now when I have, you know, six other creators, and between the seven of us, we're publishing every single day. And now I don't have to be the guy publishing every single day to get that same kind of growth rate. Then that allows me to reclaim my time. So it's more like I'm just kind of slogging through the suck right now by just like working a ton of hours. That's kind of like
Yeah.
what I'm doing.
Okay.
And then so phase two, I want to be focusing more on quality over quantity with my own content and developing talent. And then phase three, I'm looking to go like the Netflix for travel content, right? Like you pay your $15 a month and you get our whole back catalog for ad free and in high def, and then this is like my retirement phase where now I'm just making history documentaries, and that's like all I want to do is make history documentaries and develop the talent, and that's kind of it. So I get like I think your point is really well taken, and it was something I was thinking about yesterday when I was kind of thinking about this conversation about how my life could be so much further ahead if I had just gone for the thing that lit me up in the first place, rather than like I'm going to go for like a base hit and I'm going to build the practical stupid business that I don't really like so that I have, the lifestyle and the freedom to be able to go and do the thing that I like that was one of the worst maybe business decisions I've ever made in my life, was that. So I think that like if I'm giving advice to somebody that started today, it's very much like find a way to just turn your passion and temper it with realism into something
Okay.
viable. Don't go for the base hit. But I think with the phases I have planned out, that I'm pretty content with how I'm looking to sequence those things. Like
Okay.
I know I want to get to being the guy that just travels around Europe at like World War I sites or whatever, and like that's all I want
Right.
to do.
Okay.
But I'm looking to build something, a vehicle that takes me there, so that now that's all I'm doing.
Okay. All right. So you told me that you shouldn't do a base hit, and then you explained how you're going to do a base hit,
No,
and
I knew you were going to say that. Here's the difference. What I'm doing now engages my passion. This is not something that like I had never experienced this before, ever, before this project, where if I'm going to have a conversation, this to, if you and I had this conversation 5 years ago, I would not be feeling this way that I am right now. When I have a 2 hour meeting with the woman I brought on to do sales, I, I walk away feeling energized. And I imagine this is kind of like the way that extroverts talk about feeling like energized by being social. Like I can't relate to that, but my passion is absolutely engaged. Whereas when I'm going to do lead gen for home builders or whatever
right.
stupid
Oh
thing I was
yeah.
trying, like there's no passion. That's a hundred
Yep.
percent practicality. Whereas with this, I literally like I love to go for long walks. So I go for like a 6 or 8 mile walk in a new city. I pick cities that are like aesthetic and beautiful and have good smelling food everywhere. And I just take my camera with me and I'm just fucking talking. And that's like, it's like being a big mouth is something I like to do. And so like the biggest like suck that I ever have to deal with is like I gotta sit down and edit this video on my iPad. Like it's really not so bad. So I absolutely get why you could hear what I just said and think this motherfucker just said he's not gonna don't do base hits and now he's telling me about his base hit.
Well,
But
the difference being that this is a passionate bass head.
exactly. That I'm doing the things that I want to do and I have a vision for what I want to grow it into, but
Right.
I know from experience that every day, I'm like that CFO waking up and thinking about spreadsheets. Like I'm thinking about how much fun it's going to be to get out and explore like a new neighborhood in the city, how much I like to like teach and share what I've learned, that I'm extremely like systematic and process oriented. And so I have like really like useful things to impart to people who want to live a lifestyle similar to mine. And so, yeah, to my mind, I don't know enough about sports to make a good analogy here, I guess, but but like I'm enjoying the ride here
Okay.
and that's so different from anything I've ever done. I can't even like articulate what it does for my well-being, for my
Right.
satisfaction day to
Uh-huh.
day. And just the sense of purpose I have is also like extremely galvanizing, I guess. Like when you go to a personal trainer and you do their workout plan and their diet plan, like you're gonna get results. You're a coach, you understand this.
Mhm.
And so having the confidence that like I'm making something that is going to be valuable, that people are going to want, that like is fun for me to make. That sense of purpose and confidence that it's given me, that I'm not like spinning my wheels and maybe I'm not going to get anywhere, like has made such a massive difference in my progression as an it's I read 4 Hour Work Week when I was 23. I'm 38 now. And 4 Hour Work Week was really what galvanized like this dream into me. And I have never in that time felt this kind of like unity of purpose and opportunity. And I'm loving every day of it. So I guess if you
Fantastic.
go for a base hit, go for the passionate base hit, like you said.
Right. Yep. Yep. The one thing that's similar, and then we can jump off, is that I had a very similar conversation with Pedro because he's in podcasting, and we started talking about like what could be the future of Lumen, and he mentioned like producing his own shows, like with talent. Like, okay, we've got a business model here that I've invested in. You got to pay the bills. It's got to grow, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't just go ahead and try to do the thing you say you're going to attempt. So we've already had conversations with talent and to see if they would be a fit for us producing a show for them and taking care of everything for them instead of just doing client work. We just were like, oh, well, here's the future. And what are the steps to getting there? Well, we need talent. Well, first thing to do is just find some talent and try to negotiate a deal. And instead of like making it into this, oh, we've got 80 steps that we have to do first before we ever go talk to talent and then keep this wish sitting out there. Oh, I wish we were doing our own shows. It's like, no, we can literally do that now. Like there's nothing that says we have to wait and do all these 80 steps that we've manufactured. We invented these barriers. Like so I was teasing you a little bit about the language that you were using, but a lot of these times when you're setting steps and phases in place, there's usually a barrier you've put in place that really doesn't even exist. It's a logical fallacy. Like you believe like, hey, well, this makes sense. It's realistic. But it's like, well, what if I just called somebody? Like I know Jane. Jane loves travel. She's always traveling, and she's making these quirky little shorts and stuff, but she's never really, turned it into a brand. Like, hey Jane, it's like, let me just call her up. I'm like, Jane, would you like to do this thing? I'm doing, I'm doing this stuff. You already know my background. Like I do all these other things for clients, and I'm producing my own channel. What if I took on this side of the business? Would you be interested in that? And then I'm already in phase 2. If she says yes, I'm in phase 2.
Okay. I think you definitely are onto something there. The thing is that, okay, I haven't voiced this to anybody yet because I feel lame even saying it, but the goal that I am working toward is that in the next 5 to 10 years, I want to be the biggest name in travel. That is
Okay.
the goal that I'm working toward. And whether I'm doing phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3, I'm working in furtherance toward that goal. I want to be the next Bourdain or whatever, right? But at the same time, I think that in a certain way, I think you're a little bit off base in that what I'm doing by working the phases either way, I'm moving toward that goal. But I do think that you're absolutely right that I am limiting myself by thinking I couldn't grow this into a multi-creator brand in phase 1. And the minute, I'm kind of just I'm processing in real time this idea that like I can get to the goal faster if I do move to phase 2 sooner for no other reason than just like publishing cadence and like bringing on people who are approaching traveling from a different perspective, have a different worldview than me, right? So now, like, I'm doubling my capacity to grow toward that goal by just not stopping myself from saying that going to sign that creator now would be like out of sequence. So
Right.
I think that you're
Right.
totally right about that.
And so, but I don't want it to just be focused on that. And everyone listening, if they're still here, us rambling on, uh, is don't put arbitrary steps in place.
Mhm.
Even with like the goal of becoming one of the most well known or the most known travel guy on the planet. It's like, well, what steps have I invented that are just barriers? They're just a thing to tick off on a checklist that don't actually get me any closer to my goal. And there may be zero. I don't know. But I've noticed that this happens all the time. Every time someone comes up with a big plan, a complex plan, it always involves steps that you could just bypass. It was a book by Robert Ringer, Winning Through Intimidation, something like that. And I haven't read this book in forever. But in it, he talks about the leapfrog theory, is that if you figure out what you want and you can just leap over everyone else and just do that thing, because there's literally no rules that say you can't do that. And if you look at the crowds always do lots of steps. They always do.
Mm.
And they compete in a herd. Like there's a whole bunch of them, and they start in the back and they try to work their way through the entire herd to get to the front of the herd. Instead, he's like, you just jump over it. Like you don't have to go that path.
Mm.
The only thing that you are required in real life is to be able to deliver. Like if you say, I'm going to do X, then deliver X. And that's all that matters in this world. Nobody cares about the million steps and the dozens of years or hundreds of years that you slogged away trying to accomplish this thing. And they just go, oh, you accomplished this thing.
Mhm.
Isn't that nice?
Overnight
Right?
success.
Yeah, they go, "Oh, yeah, you're an overnight success." It's like,
Right.
"Yeah, but I slogged. Look at all my slogging.
Hmm.
Why don't you pat me on the back for that part?" They they go, "Nah, nah, I don't like that part. I like this part where you are already here." And most people set up their plans, their business plans, as a slog. Like they're like, "I am going to battle my way to success." It's like, yeah, maybe that is required, or maybe you could just bypass all these rules that you just invented for your plan and just do X.
Yeah, I have to think about now.
Well, that's where I'll leave you. I'll leave you with that because that's a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And my last bit of wisdom is, with a brand new idea, do not look at ways that it can fail. Give it at least 48 hours, if not 1 week, where all you do is figure out how this would work. Because ideas are fragile, they break all the time. So you need to take a look at all the ways it can work before you bring realism into place. Because realism will tell is a test of how sturdy this idea is. But ideas are really fragile. And if you figure out all the ways they can work, then an idea that uh, has grown and has matured a bit can withstand scrutiny. But if you don't, if you attack it with scrutiny in its infancy, it just dies.
Mm. Man, you just described so many hundreds of hours of my life. Just yeah, that's really good advice. That's really good advice. Podcast listener, take note.
All right, Shay. Is there any place people should go look for you?
Yeah,
Let's do a plug.
yeah, wayfindertv.com is gonna be the best place. My socials are there. You can get links to my videos. If you are interested in the digital nomad lifestyle, I offer a free, very comprehensive course on the lifestyle. So if you want to travel around and like live a full life anywhere in the world, that would be definitely worth the time invested. So you can find that linked up at the top on wayfindertv.com.
All right, perfect. Well, thanks for coming on and letting me play executive coach on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right.